May 16th, 2023 Fairview Planning Commission meeting to order. Ms. Jones, if you would please call the roll.
Ms. Street?
Here.
Ms. Sinyard?
Here.
Ms. Schulist?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Here. Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Callie?
Here.
Mr. Magner?
Here.
Ms. Williams? Mr. McDonald?
Here. Thank you. Mr. Anderson, if you'd lead us in the prayer, if everyone would stand for that, and the pledge.
Hearts to the betterment of the city and the people of Fairview. Help us be fair and non-judgmental and do the right thing by the city. Help us get through the times of the country and as we have difficult moments. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to get tongue-tied. I don't know.
Our first item is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Callie Johnson. Call roll.
Mr. Callie?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Aye. Ms. Street?
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard?
Aye.
Ms. Schulist?
Aye.
Mr. Magner?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye. Do we have any citizen comments this evening?
None tonight.
Thank you. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for the April 21st, 2023 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Callie Schulist. Call roll.
Mr. Callie?
Aye.
Ms. Schulist?
Aye.
Ms. Street?
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
I will abstain as not being part of it.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Magner?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye. Before we get into new business, I was asked to just remind everybody to make sure their microphones are on. I guess there's been some issues with that lately. New business, item number 1, PC Resolution PC 1723, Master Development Plans, Columbus Cove Townhomes, 47 single-family attached dwelling lots on 4.77 acres, map 022, parcel 164.00 and 165.01. Current zoning RM12, multifamily residential. Property owner, Platinum Equities, LLC. Do we have any staff comments that would like to be read on this? I guess first we should make a motion, shouldn't we?
I'll do my staff report. Okay, PC 17-23, Columbus Cove Townhomes. This is for the master development plan. We also have the site development plan, which is for the specific phasing of this development. Mr. Trent Smith with Southern Consulting has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for master development plan approval of the Columbus Cove Townhomes and will develop this project as a townhome development. Property contains 4.77 acres and is zoned RM12 multifamily residential. Property is located at map 22, parcels 164 and 165.01, and is across the street from Williamson County TDOT on Highway 96. The project is 3 phases, with the first phase to begin construction June 2023. This project originally went to the BOZA, Board of Zoning Appeals, for zoning ordinance 7-103.3D due to the townhomes not being 22 feet, but the interpretation of that portion of the zoning ordinance has changed with legal interpretation and council. As these townhomes do not have individual lots, the statement does not apply to this development. The project property has been reviewed by staff and meets the base zoning bulk and area requirements of the RM12 residential multifamily regulations with setbacks for front, rear, and side 20, 20, and 7.5, and a development buffer requirement of 8 feet. They're proposing ingress, egress to the project by means of one access point from Highway 96, and that is directly across from the Williamson County TDOT gated entrance. They were required to submit a traffic impact study. Report was submitted, and it was dated March 14th, 2023 by SEC Inc. And they made the following recommendations. Highway 96 at the site driveway, there is adequate capacity in the current traffic system to accommodate this development. No roadway improvements are recommended at this time. Each dwelling unit will contain a one-car garage parking area and one driveway parking space, meeting the 2 parking space per unit requirement. Additional parking of 1 space for every 2 units is provided, totaling 24 spaces for both residents and visitors. They were required to have 10% open space. They've provided 10%. Usable open space, they were required 5. They provided 5.9. They've got a dog park and green space have been provided, and they are shown on the master development plan. The total amount required to be paid into the tree bank is 2,244 caliper inches. And that amount to be paid into the tree bank will be set with the site development plan, which is the next item on your agenda. That is all I have.
Thank you. Before we get into discussion, is there a motion for this?
Move for approval.
Second.
Johnson, Schulis? All right, open for discussion.
It looked like the master development plan only carried with it the variance for the trees, and then the design development was only carried by the site plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll hold my questions on the design till the second one.
If you all have anything you'd like to address, you can go ahead and do that too.
If you have any questions, hopefully they're easy, that's what we're here for.
Go ahead.
A quick question. I don't think we have the plans available to pull up, but one of the grading plans, just curious, there's, it shows some contours that's crossing the boundary line right there next to there. It looks like there's an adjacent structure. You know, why would the
one that people.
I think there's an underground sewer pipe structure and then some contours that seem to clip over the property line there.
So I'm assuming you're referring to,
C30 3.0.
I was thinking about, you're referring to the White House on 96 from the site itself?
I'm not sure what the structure looks
The
like.
existing house, I
Yeah,
think.
we own that house as well, so part of this property come off of the property that house was on.
Okay, so you own both parcels?
We do, yes, sir.
Okay.
One of the remaining staff comments was to get a grading easement, but he does own the property, but that'll be handled. But that is the remaining comment in IDT, and those will all be completed as part of this.
Then that should be real easy to solve. I just have only one other question. The percentages of siding, did we resolve that? Do we know that that's compliant?
We do have those. I don't remember what these were. I know they were submitted, but I don't remember what they were.
I think that was my question, but it was carried by the site plan, not the master development.
It's in the staff report for the site plan.
Okay, then I'll table that where we'll.
That's the one addition to the master development plan for the site
Great.
development plan
Thank you.
staff report.
Just wanted to clarify, it showed a phase 1 and a phase 2, and I assume the remaining is for phase 3, but it didn't say that. Is that right?
It's an air
Okay.
omission.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
The traffic study that was done on this, can you tell us what all that involves? The traffic study. Can you tell us what is included in the traffic study as far as
He didn't.
other developments?
One of the things they'll do, I didn't do that, but I worked with the people who did it. They'll do an actual traffic counts. And in this case, it's been a year and a half or so, stay updated. Because partly it was done back in the day when school was not in session, for example. So they did update it, and I forget the new date, but it did take into account the existing traffic load on Highway 96, including school traffic.
Okay, so it doesn't include the already approved plans for other developments and the traffic that's going to be placed on 96?
They have no way to anticipate that. But the original traffic study was done in July of '22. And staff asked us to get updated traffic count, which was done, I believe, in March of this year, that included school zone traffic. Because it was done in July originally, school was out, so they had asked for us to get it revised to accommodate the school traffic.
Okay. I think that the traffic study needs to include the future also, because we have to make plans for everything, and I think it needs to include what estimate of what the other developments are going to put on the road also.
Well, one thing they did do is when they did their update, they far exceeded a reasonable amount of increased traffic over that time period. I want to say that.
They include a growth projection, and anytime we have a traffic study come through, and this one is a little bit different. This one was actually submitted to us probably 2 years ago.
I think it was
a year and a half
July
ago.
of '22 was it?
It's been in front of us for a very long time at this point, multiple staff members. But typically when we do a traffic study, everything that has been approved, that's not a concept plan, that's actually approved vested lots, they will add that into it, and then they will also add a blanket future growth percentage on top of that, is how it's done.
Any additional questions? Ms. Johnson, if you would call roll, please.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Ms. Street,
Nay.
Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Calley,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald,
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business item 2. PC Resolution PC 1823, Residential Site Development Plan, Columbus Cove Townhomes, 47 single-family attached dwelling lots on 4.77 acres. Map 022, parcels 164.00 and 165.01. Current zoning RM12, multifamily residential, property owner Platinum Equities LLC. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Johnson, Schulist. If there are staff comments, if you would like to read those.
I'll try and speed this up. This is pretty much the exact same staff report. This is just for the specific phasing of this townhome development. The only thing that was added is the material percentages for the exterior, and they are as follows. The right side elevation is 40% batten siding, 40% horizontal lap siding, and 20% brick veneer. Rear is 45 batten siding, 45 horizontal lap siding, 10% brick veneer. Left side, same as the right side elevation, and the front elevation is the same as the rear elevation. Something else that's added is each townhome unit shall be provided with a fire sprinkler system. Details are included as part of the architectural design/drawing, and there are no areas of 20% slopes on this site. As a condition of approval, there will be a variance approval for the City of Fairview Design Review Manual, Section 2-104 for architectural character, and I just listed out what that is. The percentage required is 70% brick, but I've listed out what they have provided right there, and also a payment of $94,125 will be paid into the City of Fairview Tree Bank prior to the pre-construction conference. That is all I have.
Just to clarify, I don't think the front and rear elevations are exactly the same. It looks like the percentages are different, but I think there's a height elevation difference.
If the applicant has anything you all would like to add at this point?
I think to clarify that is what she's reading is a typical building, because some of these, the front and back will be very similar, but some of them will not because of topography. So I think she's just referencing a typical building for that.
Sarah, could you remind us what, I know we haven't adopted new standards, and we all know this clearly doesn't meet the current standards, what we were targeting in the last revision? Do you know? Sorry.
We were targeting, I believe, a 50 to 70% masonry. Yeah.
I had 70%.
Yeah.
I thought the clarification was just not brick and stone combined, that weird wording back and forth.
Yeah,
Okay.
masonry.
And so this, all this siding shown on this is actually hardy boards, or, let me back up.
Cementitious.
I don't want to use that word because we may not use that exact brand, but it is a fiber cement board.
So was there a thought in not abiding by the standard to get to 70%?
Well, if we date back when this project was, we've been on this project since January of '21. No, December of '21, sorry. That's when we started the rezoning, started the design process. So I met with city staff at the time, met with the mayor at the time, got some feedback and input. And if I can quote, the mayor at the time said, that looks like Fairview. So they're 3-story. And as we know, everybody, I think, can agree that if everybody builds the exact same box and the exact same style, we end up with 500, 600, 700, you name the number, of townhomes all over Fairview that looks just alike. So to us, we felt like this gives some different character, so we don't look like that cookie cutter that we see all over Middle Tennessee. And
Question about the phasing. Will we have temporary fire truck turnaround?
if you look where phase 1 and 2 transitions from 1 to 2, there definitely is that little, it's not really a roundabout, but a section of that roundabout will be in to where a fire truck could pull in and back up to get turned around.
And you can validate that that actually works, because I saw the, I saw on the master development plan, you have the routing of the fire trucks. But
Yeah, we have to use the city has
That's right.
a scope of how that has to be done, but we can verify that with the fire chief and make sure when we get into that phase, because our hope would be to never leave the site, just continue on as we go, but
Yeah.
we will definitely accommodate the fire trucks.
But there is a variance request right now for the percentages of siding, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
I would make a point of order motion that we not allow the variance in siding request.
Council, is that a point of order that needs to be made, or just a comment?
So I think the original, it was a motion to approve.
Yeah.
So I would recommend amending the original motion to remove the variance. So it would be move to amend the motion to approve without a variance.
Then I do modify my motion to amend the original motion and not allow the exterior material variance.
Mr. Chair, that amendment will now need a second, and then you'll be voting on the amendment.
Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second that.
Magner, Mr. Anderson with the revision.
I have a question. Why do we not get to see the elevations on your display here? Oh.
I can probably find those.
She's got it here.
Yep.
So again, everything that's not brick on the building or stone is, most people consider fiber cement a masonry product.
One thing about the masonry products, the cut sheets that are required for, when you're using, say, Hardy or another brand, has the industry come up with a standard? Hardy seems to be a better product than some of the others that are on the market right now. So when you say you're using a Hardy or a masonry siding, some of them have a heck of a lot more cellulose in them than Hardy does. Who determines that it's classified as masonry siding?
Well, it's sold to me as a fiber cement
Fiber
siding.
cement.
And the product I typically use has a 50-year warranty, which I think matches any other
What
product in the
brand
industry.
is it, if you don't mind me
It's called
asking?
Nichiha.
Say it again.
Nichiha.
That's made in.
Don't ask me to spell it, so.
Don't want you to.
I've heard of it. We've used it before.
Oh, yeah, I've used it probably on, I don't know, 75, 80, maybe 100 homes at this point.
My negative, I saw some people using some, and it had so much fiber in it, they were just sawing it like regular siding, so,
Now, this here, when they cut this, the guys I have installed actually use a masonry blade on a skill saw.
right.
So, I mean, the same product we're looking at here is, if anybody's been through Pepper Tree, of all the houses I built in there, they all have Nichiha siding on them.
Okay. Thank you.
Since I haven't seen any of the documents regarding this stuff, I don't even know, apparently there's a website for us to go to that I haven't been told about. I would like more time to at least study the information on what's being presented to us.
I believe that information has been provided to us for weeks now, so I don't know if that
About,
is
yeah,
something that we
over
can
three-
request for
3
this
weeks.
to delay.
Everything is included directly into that staff report. You should all have access to IDT through either your Board of Commissioner login or your Planning Commission login to see all of those plans. Well, we will get you set up on that then.
Can you put the elevations on the screen, just to, that way people at home can see them as well?
That might take a second. I've got to get them to Keith. Ms. Schulis, do you have that paper copy?
It's not a paper copy. It's just
Okay.
on my computer.
Okay, okay.
But I can email you the PDF.
Did you get the email?
Can I just ask for clarification while we're waiting on this part? If approved with the current motion without allowing the variance, what would that make your product look like? So we can all have an idea of the changes that the variance would act, well, yeah, I guess in the end, create.
Go to Spring Hill and look at a 3-story condo. And that's what you'll have, which is what we're trying to get away from, as I mentioned earlier. But I think when we look at doing everything across the city uniform, whether it be brick, stone, whatever our percentage is, I think we end up with that cookie cutter look. And if that's what the city wants, we'll accommodate it. I just don't think that's the best thing for the city. If you look down the road and say, oh, there's 100 more of those same looking condos, but I've got a,
If I can clarify, though, I don't think you have to cookie cutter just because you have the percentages. You can still vary the design.
the design's drawn, so I mean, at this point, we'd just take the hardy off, put brick on. So I think I've got when we started the rezoning of this, these plans, I found them online in a color rendering. I'm gonna see if I can find that.
Thank you all for being patient. Those at home too, appreciate it.
So for future reference, these PowerPoints have not shown that. Are you all wanting a site plan? So I guess when we went to IDT, we assumed all of you had it on a computer in front of you. Would you like us to at least put like a site plan, a architectural elevation? Is that something we want to do moving forward, just for, okay.
I think it's nice to have it at least loaded, so if we need to, for everyone in the room to be able to see it sometimes when we're referencing something.
Mr. Johnson, was it you that wanted this up? Did you have a question you wanted to ask about it?
Well,
or
I
you
just,
wanted to
I
be
just thought
visible?
it might, give everybody a better idea that doesn't have it right in front of them to actually see what we're looking at. And I thought if Leslie didn't have it in her packet, that it may be good for her to actually get to see it.
Does anybody have a pointer so you can show where the hardy would be removed and the brick would be installed?
No, I do not. I was just sitting there looking. So the side elevation, if you look at the front, the right and left side looks like it's cantilevered over a foot or two. So we'd have to change the foundation plan to expand the foundation because we couldn't brick that if it was cantilevered. So we'd have to expand that foundation to accommodate that. Of course, the backs are simple. They're simple to brick. Most of the front's pretty simple. But I do think it totally changes the look of the building when they're brick in that design anyway.
I think they look good.
What's your cantilever, is that 18 inches or 24?
I'd have to look at the plans to remember. We literally been working on this project for 14 or 15 months, so some of the details have lost me at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. We could vote the variance down and then vote on the original motion. I want to ask Ms. Todd a question. When-
True.
Sarah, do you have quick reference to what Highbury Point was approved with?
almost no masonry. I think it was 10%.
Okay.
And that was 10% stone. I think the rest was some type of hardy fiberboard. I can't say 100% sure, but
That's fine. I was just trying to put a reference. I think it's a similar.
yeah, I think we've
townhome,
passed, I would
and
say
it's off of
6 or
96.
7 variances for a design review manual at this point, from variations to 10% brick to 20 to all across the board, really.
And I know there was an item I recused myself on that was a business office that was almost 100% siding, correct? Recently, like 2 months ago, maybe?
Yes, it was a office building, and it was set up kind of like a barn dominium style, but it was an office. But yes, it had 0% brick on that.
As presented, is there anything from the city's side that you would not want this board to, pass what's before us?
That is completely up to you.
I understand that, but there was nothing in y'all's
So-
report saying,
no.
I mean, y'all are comfortable with what you brought to us,
Right,
correct?
yes, we brought it forward.
That's all I needed to hear.
I would like to go further, say, after seeing the elevation, I do not see a problem with the siding. When you start changing the footprint, then you increase the garage in order to accommodate it. So therefore, he's going to have more cost just to accommodate that brick. And the Hardy is a masonry product. I call it Hardy, but anyway, after looking at the design itself, I would like to say that I would be in favor of him getting the variance for the Hardy siding myself.
If that's how he feels, does he just remove his second, or do we just amend the motion again?
But if you remove your second, we don't have to vote on the variance for lack of failure for not having a second.
Yeah, so if you want to withdraw your second, you'd be back to the original motion to amend.
I want to withdraw my second. Somebody else may second it, but I'm withdrawing mine.
Yeah, so then we would still have a motion on the floor from Mr. Magner. Is there anybody that would like to second Mr. Magner's approval with excluding the variance? Hearing none, motion would fail. If there's no further discussion, we will move to vote on the original motion to approve with variance. Ms. Johnson, or I'm sorry, Ms. Jones.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Schulist?
Aye.
Ms. Street?
Can I abstain or anything from it?
Yes,
I
you
abstain.
can abstain.
Ms. Sinyard?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Callie?
Aye.
Mr. Magner?
Nay.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Motion carries. Is that 5-1-1? 6-1-1.
6-1-1.
Sorry, 6 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain. Moving on to item number 3, new business item number 3.
I'm going to recuse myself from this item.
Okay. I'll give Ms. Street a moment. New business item 3, PC Resolution PC 1923, de-annexation of June Warden property, 99.33 acres, map 021, parcel 058.00, current zoning RS 40, single-family residential, property owner, June Warden.
Make a motion to approve PC 1923.
Second. Who was that? Anderson.
Callie, Mr. Anderson. Staff comments, if any?
As staff report for PC Resolution 19-23, Ms. Julie Fisher, the legal power of attorney for the owner of the June Warden property, has submitted the City of Fairview request for de-annexation. Property contains 99.33 acres and is located at map 21, parcel 58, which has access from Highway 96. The properties directly surrounding this project are either zone RS40 single-family residential or R20 single-family residential or unincorporated. This was requested to be added, and Mr. Carter, our attorney, suggested that it be put on the agenda as it was requested by a citizen, and we have to acknowledge this request, but this is actually the city coming forward as requesting this now because it has to come from the city of Fairview.
So de-annexation is a little bit of a different animal from annexation where a property owner can petition to annex. De-annexation is solely something that the city has to do. The city has to initiate that process. So discussion with staff, something that a citizen came and asked the city for, so the recommendation was to put it on the agenda for the PC and let the planning commission make a recommendation to the BOC on whether or not it's beneficial to the city.
Are you saying that the owner did not request this?
The owner did request it, but they can't petition like they can for an annexation.
Okay, so the owner is in favor of the de-annexation?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And that's why it's on your agenda tonight.
Okay.
So if I can read something that I found helpful. This was in my research of this. This was a new one. I don't think we've seen too many de-annexations come through. So I started doing some research. I couldn't find anything unless staff can help me. Is there anything within our charter or regulations that speaks to de-annexation? I don't believe there is.
I don't think anything in the charter. There's a specific procedure set out in the Tennessee Code Annotated.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to reference for everyone, just so we're all on the same page.
Sure.
If I can.
Please.
This is straight from the Tennessee Advisory Commission and Intergovernmental Relations website, tennessee.gov website. I'm happy to provide it to anyone who wants it. This is what it states. De-annexation concerns about initiation and effect. Tennessee allows only cities to initiate de-annexation. Participation by residents in de-annexation decisions is limited to voting in de-annexation referendums when cities choose to hold them, or petitioning for a vote when they don't. Residents or landowners who consider the cost of being in the city to outweigh the benefit have no means of withdrawing from the city, and even when the city has failed to fully implement a plan of service adopted for an annexed area, their only recourse under current law is to sue the city to provide the services. So I guess my follow-up to that would be, what services is the city currently failing to provide to this landowner?
We are not currently failing to serve, and nothing has changed as far as services go to this property or that area.
How long has it been a part of the city? 2004.
Point of order, Ms. Street recused herself. Is she involved in this conversation, or?
I think the discussion needs to be held with the board unless they want to ask someone to come give input.
I know we've had procedural issues come up recently where we've had procedural issues called into question. So I just want to make sure that we're above board here, that when you recuse, just making sure that that's acceptable.
Sure. So I think that was some information that she provided, but if she's recused and she's not going to participate in discussion, I think that the discussion should just be among those who are voting tonight. There's no reason why she can't sit in the room. Obviously, she could watch it on TV if she wanted, but
Well, if there a representative for this applicant, or I'm not sure if they're an applicant, if the city's the applicant, it's a very confusing one, but if there's someone here that can provide information, that would be helpful.
Sure, I'm representing my mother here tonight. I have her power of attorney. The city of Fairview did a mass annexation 18 years ago. They did not have permission. They just annexed. That property is a farm. It's been a farm for over 70 years. They annexed it as an R40. A farm does not use water or sewer. What services are we paying for when we're paying those taxes? There's not even a fire hydrant on Highway 96 anywhere near the property.
Fire department, police department. all of that is services that you would render if needed. I'm sure
It
if
is
you
a
were on that
farm.
property and you broke your leg and you called 911, the police are going to show up. That's Fairview Police, Fairview EMS.
I'm sorry, I feel like it was unlawfully annexed to begin with. My parents did not want it annexed. It was done against their will. It is a farm. Why do you have it zoned R40? It is a working farm. It has been
We
a
did not
working
zone it,
farm.
ma'am.
If you have a working farm, there's no way it's zoned R40. If it's
Well,
been
then
for
you
sev-
have it zoned
for
R40.
For 70 years, you're paying residential taxes on a farm when it could be zoned agricultural?
RS40, just for clarification.
When you guys rezoned it, you rezoned it R40. When you zoned it 18 years ago, almost 19 years ago, you zoned it R40. Williamson County recognizes it as agricultural. We've been
Williamson-
paying those taxes for 18 years because the city of Fairview,
Ma'am,
yes,
I believe the county recognizes it as a, what's the exact definition here?
AG 15, more than
It's
likely.
MGA 1. It's Municipal Growth Area 1, which would allow, if it was de-annexed and become county property again, you could put 1 acre properties on that lot.
it is agricultural.
At the
It's in
moment,
the
you're
green
right.
belt. It has been in the green
All
belt.
right.
It was in the green belt when it was annexed.
And it's still in the green belt today,
Yes, it
correct?
is.
Thank you. All right, you're not being taxed at R40 then. You're being taxed at agricultural.
Then why does the city of Fairview have it listed as R40?
When properties are annexed into the city, they are automatically rezoned to an RS40 designation. That's how it is set up right now. That's the process. You can't just come into the city as,
We didn't ask to come into the city.
that's a.
So
just
I
a
would have
statement.
a question for staff, council, I'm not sure on this one. What precedent would be set if we chose to, because the nature of this property was brought into the city through a mass annexation where other properties were also brought in at the same time. I'm fairly certain it was almost everything on the 96 corridor, which if you look currently, there is not one single property from 96 and 100 to Highway 40 on 96 that is not considered in the city of Fairview, not one property. This would create one property. So I'm curious, what precedent would that set to all the other property owners that were annexed the same way? Would they then be able to just say, hey, I don't want to be part of the city, and we would have to grant that, otherwise we would be considered playing favorites? And seeing how there's a situation here where one of the planning commission members and the BOC member is kin to this individual.
So that's a valid point. I think ultimately, annexations, there's a statutory structure for how to do annexations, and some of those property owners consent, and sometimes they don't, but cities have lawful power to annex property along their municipal borders. So once that's done, only the city can de-annex them. And if the city chooses to de-annex a property, it just needs to be for some benefit for the city. So if the planning commission thinks that there's a benefit to not having to provide services to this property, then perhaps it'll recommend that to the BOC. But if there's not much benefit and you're gonna lose tax revenue, perhaps there's no benefit to the city. But to answer your question, I think the analysis needs to be, is there a benefit to the city to de-annexing the property? And that should be how you view any question like that comes up.
Yeah, my concern, and again, it's not, I'm just looking at it from a city's perspective, and it just seems like we'd be setting a precedent here that I think could be dangerous, especially when we really, truly, personally, have yet to hear any justification as to why this is, what benefit the city gets out of this.
What benefit are we getting on those taxes?
That's up to you to
Zip.
decide. I'm asking.
Zip.
Well, again, police, fire, the roads that you use to access that property, all of that. But again, it's the precedent. It's where does this go? What does this open? What kind of box of can of worms does this open? Would be my question.
And then just a final piece for information. It's the BOC that has the final say on this item anyway. So this is a recommendation from the Planning Commission, obviously.
Ms. Toddy, which part of this property is not currently touching city property?
Southern piece, southern leg.
I think you'll find that the original address on this property was northwest.
That's the only piece that's rated.
Just, I couldn't find anything on IDT about this. Was there anything logged in IDT?
No, this was submitted actually from Ms. Fisher to Micah in the form of a memo.
Okay,
It
I
was
was
submitted in.
checking, because some things have been named
Yeah.
inaccurately where we couldn't find them, so.
If this motion failed tonight, or the de-annexation failed the Board of Commissioners, would it behoove you for the Board of Commissioners to rezone your property agriculture? Would that make you feel better? If we gave you the AG 15 zoning?
Why don't I have it to begin with?
Because it's not necessary is the answer, because in Williamson County, well, in the state of Tennessee, you're taxed on use, not zoning. So you're using it for a farm, so you pay taxes on a farm. It may be zoned R40, it may be zoned R20, it may be zoned anything, but if you use it for a farm, you get taxed on a farm. Is that not how it works, sir? So if it would make you feel better is what I'm saying. This may pass and you may be de-annexed. I don't think I'm gonna support it, but if it does, fine. If it doesn't, I'm saying, would you feel better as the property owner, it being zoned agriculture? So you don't ever think of the 1 acre lot zoning again?
Well, my question to you would be, what purpose it's not going to cut my taxes. We're paying taxes on something that does not utilize those utilities that the taxes are supposed to be paying for. We don't have water, we don't have sewer on a farm.
City of Fairview does not provide water or sewer. It's Dixon, so that is not part of the city services.
Can I just ask an off-the-wall question? My farm's been in my family longer than the 70 years. What's the difference in my farm being in the city and me paying city taxes versus yours? I've received the exact same benefits that you do. I don't understand what the difference is. We were just in a fight on whether my street was a city road or not. It's been a city road since before 1959 when the city incorporated. But there was a former city manager that didn't think it was a city road, but that's been clarified at the last meeting that it is. I don't understand. If you want to be de-annexed, that's fine, but your statement was it's zoned R40. If R40 is the hangup, we can change that. The Board of Commissioners has the right to rezone yours, and if agriculture makes you happy, then I don't see why we couldn't do that.
What would make me happy would be to de-annexed. If we are not de-annexed, then the only other choice is to go with the agricultural zoning.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any other discussion? I believe the motion was to approve, correct? Ms. Jones, if you can call roll.
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Nay.
Ms. Sinyard,
Nay.
Ms. Schulist,
Nay.
Mr. Johnson,
Nay.
Mr. Magner,
Nay.
Mr. McDonald.
Nay. Motion fails 6-1. We'll give Ms. Street a moment to come back. Bonds and letter of credit, there are none. Reports for discussion and information, city planning staff. I think Mrs. Toddy is going to handle most of these.
I appreciate y'all letting me go on vacation last week. It was very nice. Came home to a whole lot of emails. Thank you, everyone, for your comments tonight. I'm one person. That's not a justification, but I will get these on the PowerPoint, and I will get Ms. Fisher Street set up on IDT. I assume that you already had access, or I will get that done hopefully tomorrow. If you want to, we can talk about that later. And that's also the engineering comments as well, so we'll just go ahead and finish.
Thank you. City manager, nothing tonight? I guess maybe get everybody to fill out their W-9 stuff, right?
Yes, I sent out an email. If you could get me your information to get you back on payroll, we're going to start that with the payroll in June. Thank you.
City attorney, I think you got a little to read tonight, don't you?
Sorry?
Do you have this bylaws to go over?
So the big takeaway is it's just the previous bylaws were passed in 2008. These are an update that Mr. Carter has put together in cooperation with MTAS, just based on their best practices and things that they've seen. Not huge sweeping changes, but some clarifications and some updates to some of the specific statutes so that everything's addressed.
Can I ask a question about it?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it actually seemed like some big changes.
Okay.
You've removed an officer and changed the secretary to a non-board member.
Well,
Is that what, I mean, it's fine, I just am curious, it seemed like some major changes we should be discussing.
Well, the secretary is an ex officio office, so they're not voting. It's just a ministerial role.
Right, but right now we have a secretary sitting on the board, so, sorry, mic's off. And then a second secretary, right? So we're taking away roles that we've already established, and it's fine, but I'm just curious, seems like some bigger changes that might need a further discussion of going through the differences that we've made.
Well, I can certainly make a note and talk to Mr. Carter about that and give
He
you some
will be here
feedback.
to present it to us at the next meeting, correct?
Yes, sir, he will.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'll make a note about that specifically so he can be ready to address it. My initial thought is that it would free the voting members up to focus on the packages that they're voting on and allow city staff to take on the ministerial functions for you. But
Yeah.
I'll have him address that.
I know currently she signs almost every plat, so then
Yes, ma'am.
if she's not signing, I'm just questions, not saying it's wrong. I just was like, whoa, there's just some big changes and we haven't even started to have a workshop on.
Okay. No, I'll be sure that we look at those for you. Any other questions?
I just have one other one, please. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking under Article 8, under meetings for public hearings. And I apologize if I'm not familiar if this was a revision or amendment to the original, but in reference to public hearings, it talks about interested parties have the privilege of having floor time, but the planning commission may not have any rebuttal remarks or shall not deliberate. Anybody have any clarification on, kind of seems like that's why we would have a public hearing.
I'll get you a better explanation for that. I don't want to tell you something off the cuff, but I'm certain there's a reason that it's written that way, so we'll get you an answer in writing on that one.
And if it's already in that way, I'm just curious if that's something that we could consider maybe still having the ability to, even with some limitation.
I think there is a specific reason, but again, I don't want to go off the cuff with it. We'll get you I'll do the homework and tell you what the correct answer is.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions on that? We will start with communication from the Planning Commission members. Mr. Cowley.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson, welcome, by the way.
Thank you for allowing me to be here, even under the circumstances that I am here. I was put here by Mayor Anderson. She is having some family issues that she's having to deal with, so I'm here in her stead until she tells me she's coming back. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to have you. Ms. Sinyard.
Nothing for me tonight.
Is there a plan in place or an open position to supplement or support Ms. Toddy? Maybe to replace Micah or whatever?
Yes, ma'am. We have advertised nationally. We are in the process of trying to replace our planning staff.
Sure. So
Thank
we'll
you.
have, are we hiring one more engineer and a planning director?
Currently, there is a planning director that is open. There possibly, depending on how budget goes, possibly be another position in the planning department. But I don't think there's any look to hire another engineer.
Got it. That's it for me.
Mrs. Street.
None.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I haven't acknowledged, but I do want to participate in the Zoom for the procedures, Robert's Rules. And so I guess I'll notify by telephone the people that are involved with that Zoom. And I think it'll help us all. My experience from the old time days kind of gets fuzzy from the different boards I've sat on over the years. So I think it's a good refresher course.
None, thank you.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off what Mr. Anderson brought up, I believe, was that June 1st? June 1st, I believe, is that Zoom call. I think it was like an hour and a half. I don't know if anybody attended that last Planning Commission PC or whatever it was. It was the MTAS. I don't remember the title of it, but I thought it was good. I don't know if anyone else attended it, but I thought they got some benefit out of it. Yeah, so we can get more information emailed out on that June 1st, but yes, it is a Robert's Rules of Order kind of master class, I think, so nice to go through that.
I got one more thing. I was out of town for a little bit, first of the month, and again, I couldn't access the city's email to me while I was gone, and I put in my passcodes and stuff, and it wouldn't let me in. And as soon as I got back to town, they let me back in. So I don't know if it's a fraud protection, something or another going on, but
Were you out of the country by chance?
well, you could say I was in Texas.
Well, I do know when it's locked down outside the country, by the way.
Huh?
It is locked down when you leave the country.
But I didn't leave the country. I just went to Texas.
We can work with IT on that. I'll also get that done, and then Ms. Street added to IDT. We'll work with them tomorrow.
Thank you all. There's nothing else from me. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.